As you were talking there, I'm realizing that just as important as social leadership, of course, is governance.
Yeah.
And one theme that recurs in your book is that governance is not government.
Yeah.
Governments, if I have it right, is much more concerned with they might be tacit, they might be explicit, but I think you call them rules of engagement, in terms of which social interaction happens.
Yeah.
And it's crucial to your argument, but you also seem to have a refreshing take on the notion of governance. For instance, meetings. How many employees, meetings, the bane of their existence? One thing that you point out is that meetings, good meetings, are rooted in a very finely grained understanding of personal interactions, and most importantly, the ability to encourage conversations between people. Your book even ends with the striking claim that the ability to engage in conversation and the conventions, the accommodations, the following cooperatively is the essence of any kind of social leadership. Is that too much of an exaggeration?
No, that's a probably a better summary or précis of the book that I could write myself. I think I'm too close to it to capture it that way. But you've raised a couple of really key points there, and I'll go back to the governance piece and then come back to conversation. Government is a form of governance. It's a particular set of rules of engagement, as I say, particularly in the political realm, particularly with that focus. But really, any organization has to have a governance structure, and it doesn't matter whether it's a family, a community group, the minor hockey association, the university, whatever it is. All of these structures or all of these organizational types have governance structures, and really they're the rules of engagement. They're the ways that people understand their roles, the goals of the organization, how those goals will be accomplished, who they have to respond to internally and externally, etc. Governance structures of any kind are the place where people work collectively, all right, engage in conversation, accomplish their goals, and really create the opportunities for leadership to happen. And the goal of all of this, as I say, is to create capacity to act. Right. That's really the end result. You only come together to increase your capacity to act. We can do more together than we can do separately, right? But of course, when you come together, you then have to figure out, okay, how do we play together? Yeah. If you give a bunch of children a ball and send them out in the yard and say, go play, the first thing they do is establish a set of rules.
Yeah.
They don't play, they establish a set of rules.
Right.
All right? And that's governance. We don't need to really make it any more complicated than that on one level. We just have to realize that process is as a necessary precursor to any kind of other activity.
Yeah.
And the idea of conversation comes in exactly there. How do you construct that set of rules? How do you get those rules of engagement out so that you can move forward to accomplish goals? And it has to be genuine conversation. It's not a dictatorship. It's not my way or the highway. If you want an organization to succeed, there needs to be that genuine interaction. It's none of the hi, how are you, as you walk down the hall, to which nobody really wants the answer, and you're caught off guard when somebody actually says, oh, by the way, I'm really feeling lousy today. Have you got a minute? Right? We're not interested in that. It's a social convention. But conversation is that establishment of shared meaning. All right? Use of words, notion of what it is that we're all about, notion of what part I play versus what part you play. And if the time is spent establishing those, then we can move forward in a way that maximizes our ability to use the knowledge that we have, the experience that we have, because we're aware of other people's strengths and weaknesses. We're aware, we share an idea of what the goal may be. And so the only way you're going to get that is through conversation. And meetings, I mean, we're having a meeting on one level. Yeah. All right. People generally don't think of this as a meeting, but it really is. Any kind of meeting is just this scaled up. All right. But what happens when we scale it up is we forget to have a conversation. We drop the conversation out and we get a bunch of people in a room who are all preoccupied with other things. All right. And we tend to just waste everyone's time.
Yeah.
I mentioned a little quip in there that if you find someone who likes meetings, don't put them in charge of it. Right? And it's just because, people, we realize how time wasting this is. But genuine conversation that can be incrementally built up as meaning is shared, as understanding is shared, will actually accomplish in much less time with much less effort than this destructive time-wasting thing that we call the meeting.
What you're saying certainly resonates with our experience of situations in which things get done, where everybody pitches in, things get done. It raises an interesting question almost at a theoretical level, because conversations are between equals. Mm-hmm. And I think with that in mind, it fits with, not that you're necessarily an adherent of servant leadership, but you build upon that notion. And as you're building upon the notion, followers become just as important as leaders. And I think you even mentioned the paradox that they're so intertwined that you can't separate them. Yeah.